Earlier, you mentioned about Mr. Fletcher,
Yeah.
his dedication in one of the books for an autograph. Is he one of the people you admire in the broadcast journalism field?
Yeah. People in the broadcast industry, not everyone went through the same track that we did, and I admire those people who went through the who went through the ropes to reach the top. Uh, in Philippine television, I would say it's Noli de Castro, Conrad de Quiros in Philippine newspaper, and internationally it's Martin Fletcher of NBC, Peter Arnett of formerly of CNN, uh, Nick Robertson of CNN. These guys went through the ropes. Nick Robertson is not a reporter. He was an audio man who became a system engineer and eventually a reporter. Peter Arnett became a journalist by accident. He was just trying to take a tour of Southeast Asia when he met some guys doing stories in Thailand, and eventually he stayed in Cambodia, went to Thailand, and took a reporting job in Indonesia before moving to Vietnam during the Vietnam War years. And when the Vietnam War was over, his friends moved back to United States, where he was also taken in after Pulitzer Prize. Uh, Also, Martin Fletcher was a former photographer who became a cameraman and eventually a reporter. These these people, I admire them not only for their work but also for their courage to admit that they've also done something wrong. Martin Fletcher admits that his beginning was not as glorious as people may think it was, because during his first years in broadcast, he kept on missing his assignments. He couldn't make it, and he kept on fumbling on every assignment that was given to him. And he made those stories out of accident. The last story that I saw him on was in Lebanon, when Israel made airstrikes over Lebanon. It was very compelling. He was just walking on the street when suddenly air sirens filled the air of Beirut, and people were running. He joined the group who were running down the stairs. He joined them, and when the air siren was over, they went up. He saw a woman crying. She was trying to call the phone of his son. She said, it's just ringing," and then came past an ambulance. They trailed the ambulance, and then they saw a man lying on the pavement. He was obviously hit by the airstrike, and when the camera moved to the man, his phone was tucked in his pocket, and it was ringing with his mother's name. Moving on. It was very compelling, and these are the kind of this is the kind of thinking that you need to do during those situations. We journalists must bring not only the pictures but also the emotion, the tense situation that people in that place feel, so that other people who will watch it will have the ability to think what should be done, who should act, and how we should go in order to help these people uh, be taken out of that situation. Those are the kind of stories that these people that I admire, have made. That's why they were able to create a mark in the industry because of their work, not just because they have pretty faces or resonant voices or comic sounding modulation.
Right.
It's it's not the clownish attitude that brought them to what they are enjoying right now, and they took so many hours, months, years of labor to acquire that ability. I hope it will take me a shorter time, but to achieve it. But I hope that someday I will have that same effect on the people that I bring my stories to.
I think you already do to some extent. Maybe
Thank you, Vic.
I guess that'll be my next question is, do you think compared to Philippine journalism compared to international journalism, do you think there's a little bit of an advantage for people who are reporting on CNN or NBC, um, resources wise? Do you think we lack resources here in the Philippines for the field of journalism?
No, because journalism is a transnational activity. There's no border in journalism. We should try to look at the model of CNN. CNN is also taking in journalists with regional accents because it provides flavor and a touch of global outlook. Meaning, not not all journalists are Americans. Not all journalists are British. There are journalists who came from a specific region, uh, with the exception of like Atika Schubert of CNN, who speaks like an American but looks very much like a Japanese,
Right.
but is assigned in Southeast Asia, eventually moved to Japan. Uh, those are the different exceptions. Look at Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera took in CNN people, and the CNN people gladly moved over to Al Jazeera because of the creative freedom. It's like you're working for BBC, and yet you're earning as big as CNN with the same exposure of CNN and BBC. And Al Jazeera's flavor is quite unique. The reporter in the Philippines is a Filipina. It's a good friend of mine, Marca Ortigas. And it provides a holistic approach to watching the news, because we must remember that putting in a journalist from New York, to put a journalist from New York in Mindanao would be somehow inconceivable, because they doesn't even know the language and the culture of the people there. So put someone with the right attitude of recognizing a particular culture, language. It will be much easier for the reporter to present it into the global context. Technology-wise, we are employing the same technology that these major networks, major international news networks, are employing. The same editing stuff, the same skills applied in camera techniques, the same skills applied in video production. That will require money, but money comes after excellence. If you do good stories, investors will come in. And eventually, people will begin to look at news production, at broadcast journalism in a different perspective that, hey, it's like CNN. No, it's Philippine journalism. You don't compare Philippine journalism to CNN, because CNN will never succeed in the Philippines.
That's right.
CNN is buying materials from ABS-CBN.
Oh.
Yeah, whenever they do production of stories here in the Philippines, they buy it from us. Associated Press, Fuji Asahi of Japan, NHK of Japan is buying materials from the Philippines because they do not know who to talk to, where to go to, and how to deal with the culture of the Philippines.
So we actually have certain advantages over these larger networks because of the cultural thing that we have here.
Territorial advantages.
That's right.